there. Elise, let's talk about Missouri. Let's go from Boston, Missouri to Missouri. It seems the courts are saying not so fast. You're not going to be able to do this by being too clever by half. If you're going to shut down the last abortion provider in the state of Missouri, you're going to have to, as a state, declare that's exactly what you're going to do. And Elise, this is in light of these new polls on abortion that have dramatically changed over the past couple months. Let me just show this one very quickly that shows that when it comes to people who want Roe v. Wade, well, first of all, pro-choice, which was actually a 50-50 proposition, is now swung in the pro-choice direction. But Americans are not divided on Roe v. Wade anymore after the spate of all of these state rulings. 77% want to keep it in place. And Elise, here's something shocking for both you and me growing up in the South and in the Republican Party. Now, because of all of this legislation, only 13% of Americans want Roe v. Wade overturned. The most support ever since this ruling was handed down in 1973.
Well, you look at how all these laws that are happening across the country, you know, whether it's Alabama and the heartbeat law, and then you look at Missouri, and you look at so many states that are faced with the option of only having a single provider within the entire state, and you're starting to see voters shift. And it's really surprising to me that it's as dramatic of a shift as it's been just since February in the new Marist poll that came out. And it shows about a 22-point swing. And you look at Joe Biden's terrible week last week and how out of step he is with the Democratic primary electorate on this issue and struggling to catch up. You can debate whether he should have held his ground and if he looks weak by capitulating, but it also shows that this is going to be an issue that will continue to resonate and motivate voters in this coming election cycle.
No doubt about it. And also Gene Robinson, I think David French, though David French supports, first of all, let's talk about what David French supports. He supports these abortion laws across the Deep South, but even he recognized in his article about the attacks on, quote, Frenchism, which is actually being decent to people with whom you disagree. He said that so many of the people on the social right, their goals are so out of reach that they will be fighting this battle forever. And in this case, they abandoned the incrementalism that had moved them close to having a de facto ban on abortion in a lot of states. Now it seems to have backfired. Exactly. And they've not only gone back 5-10 years, they've gone back to 1973. Roe v. Wade today, because of what's happened over the past 6 months, is more popular with the American people and safer than ever before.
Yeah, I think there's a clear backlash, and it reflects the fact that the pro-life movement has been making these incremental advances and is pushing for the whole enchilada, is pushing for basically to ban all abortion in the United States, and that is not the position of the American people. And I think people have recognized that Roe v. Wade is an imperfect solution. It doesn't make most people on both sides of the issue very happy, but it's what we got, and it is a solution, and it's been settled since 1973, and people want to work within that context and not just throw it out and have this fight on which, you know, there is no compromise. Basically, there's no position sort of in the middle that we could all settle on, and so Roe v. Wade is there. I think people are saying, you know, let's work within that context, and this incrementalism was one thing, but where you're going now is way too far.
Yeah, and by the way, for those of you who spit out your coffee when I said that Roe v. Wade was safer than ever before, I'm looking down the road a little bit. And I'm looking down the road because I know the Roberts Court is not going to overturn a ruling that only 13% of Americans want overturned. You can be offended by that fact, but they're just not going to overturn a half-century precedent that 77% of Americans want to be kept in place. And that number is higher today. And we talk about this all the time on this show. because of overreach. You can be a political purist all you want, and you can push and push, but you can only push the American people so far. And in this issue, they've been pushed far enough. You could say the same thing about guns. Nick, why don't we wrap up this quick conversation that we're having on these overnight developments before we get into politics, talking about guns. I'm always humored by people that try having debates with me saying that their military-style assault weapon is protected by the Second Amendment, silencers, bump stocks, all these are protected by the Second Amendment. The quick answer, again, going back to the Supreme Court, no, they are not. Connecticut has had a ban on military-style assault weapons, or semi-automatic, however gun rights activists want to play semantics game. Since Newtown, the Supreme Court, time and time again, has refused to take these gun cases up. And it happened again last night with silencers, not protected by the Second Amendment.
So, Joe, this one small case is in some way the bigger picture of the mission creep that the gun rights movement has undergone in the past several years. The Second Amendment is basically safe, and core gun rights are safe in this country under this court. So the gun rights movement has moved on to these subsidiary battles over paraphernalia, over silencers in this case. They're fighting over the right to have a tool that's used by hitmen and snipers. It's also why the NRA is getting into the culture wars and has a TV show attacking the left all the time. They're looking for reasons to stay in business because the fundamental debate at the court level, at least, is done.
Yeah, and Mika, you know, they're also, again, it's turned since Heller, and the Supreme Court saying that Americans have the right to keep and bear arms, and the Second Amendment means what the Second Amendment says. The Supreme Court, as Nick said, has needed to whip up people, make them angry, get them to send their dues in. We are now finding that, unfortunately, they're not wanting to get those dues in to protect Second Amendment rights. These board members are wanting to pull dues out of the pockets of hardworking Americans because they want to buy hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of expensive Italian suits in Los Angeles and pay tens of millions of dollars to advertising firms, PR firms. It's all self-dealing. And this is a real growing problem for rank-and-file NRA members who have to be angry at the 3 or 4 lobbyists in Washington, D.C. that have gotten fat, rich, and happy off of their dues.
Well,
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.